What's up? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite place on the internet, Forgotten Dawgs, where we'll be shining a little bit of light on some NBA role players that I don't think get enough credit. Today we're going to be focusing on an NBA role player that is currently still in the league, but I'm afraid if I were to be making these videos 10 years down the line, I would still be making a video about him, talking about how he doesn't get the attention that he deserves. Today we're talking about one of my favorite players growing up, Victor Oladipo. Victor Oladipo fits into this category of NBA players that started off their career sort of as a role player or just as a young guy, got traded and sort of bursted into stardom, but sadly for Vic, it was hard for him to find his way back to stardom considering his injury history. Victor Oladipo was the second overall pick out of Indiana in the 2013 NBA draft to the Orlando Magic. This was an Orlando team that was awful. I mean, obviously they're not great if they're getting the second pick in the draft, but they get Victor Oladipo and it looks like he's going to be a bright part in their franchise future. And he starts his career, he plays 80 games in his rookie season, he starts 44 of those, but sadly that is the most games that he's ever going to play in his career in one season. In his rookie season, he finishes second in the Rookie of the Year race, averaging 13.8 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 4.1 assists, while also averaging 1.6 steals on the defensive end. He was also averaging a half a block a game, and he's a 6'3" guard, so that's awesome if you can get that production out of your guy, especially a rookie. Wasn't a great three-point shooter, but not a terrible one. Obviously, was an amazing jumper for the first half of his career. I think he had a 42-inch vertical, one of the best at the NBA draft combines that we've ever seen. But yeah, he loses out on Rookie of the Year to Michael Carter-Williams' crazy rookie season. But from there, his game only starts to get better. He spends 3 seasons in Orlando and his production increases every year. His points per game go up by 4 in between his rookie and his sophomore season. Then he stays rather consistent in his third season with Orlando, averaging 16 points compared to the 17.9 that he had in his sophomore season. Whew. That was a tongue twister. Now he's looking promising. He's a young, raw talent that has a lot of offensive upside and is really, really good on the defensive side. Like, what else could you want? And then after that 2015-2016 season, his third season in the league, the Magic decide they kind of want to take a different direction. They have Vucevic, who's starting to turn into a pretty good player, and they trade Victor Oladipo for Serge Ibaka. We know what happens. Sabonis and Victor Oladipo get traded for Paul George inevitably after a season, but Victor's still kind of maintaining that same pretty good production he has in OKC. Had the Thunder not really been in win now mode, I think they could have built a really solid core with Russell Westbrook and Vic and Domantas Sabonis, also having young guys like Steven Adams, who was in his third season, and Jeremy Grant, who was in his second season, and even some guys like Campaign, who wasn't great when he was a rookie, but eventually turned into a good player. That Thunder team could have been a fun young team to watch, but Russ was in his prime, he won MVP that season, but inevitably the Thunder have different plans, and they trade those 2 guys to Indiana for Paul George. Now, this is where Victor takes off. His production skyrockets. He goes from 16 points a game to 23 points a game. He's averaging 2.4 steals, the best of his whole career. He's averaging some of the best three-point shooting in his career at 37%. This is peak Victor Oladipo. I mean, he won Most Improved Player that season. He made the All-NBA third team. He was on the All-Defensive first team. He was in pretty far, but still in consideration for MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. And it was his first All-Star appearance. Now, if you're the Pacers, you're like, wow, we just hit the gold mine. He's becoming a little more available. He's playing about 10 more games than he did the previous season. And then the next season comes along and his production dips a little bit, but he's still an all-star. It's kind of a controversial all-star because he only played 36 games in the 2018-2019 season. And from there, it continues to go downhill in the 2019-2020 season, and he only plays 19 games, and he doesn't even start all 19 of those games. His points per game is nearly down 10 since his first All-Star season. His steals went from 2.4 to 0.9. It's just heartbreaking to see that he had so much promise and injuries got in the way of his career. The next season, he comes back, he's still with Indiana, but he plays only 33 games, but his production goes up a little bit, but it's kind of hard to rely on him because he's not even playing half a season. So early on in that season, he gets traded from Indiana to Houston. Now in Houston, he maintains a pretty solid points per game at 21.2 compared to the 20 even that he had with the Pacers in that season, but he only plays 20 more games before getting traded to Miami, which looked like a good trade for Miami. I remember seeing that and going, ooh, that's kind of a sneaky deal. Like, obviously, you don't know how much he's going to play, but if he can stay healthy, that's a really good guy to come off the bench in Miami. But he doesn't play a lot for the Heat, and that trend kind of continues for the next couple seasons, and he's playing barely any games per year. Then in the 2022-2023 season, he's 30 years old and he plays half of the games in a season. Now, whether that's just between how he performs in practice or injuries or just not even being really able to rely on him or other reasons, he's just not getting the same kind of minutes and attention that he got in those early or mid years of his career, and it's sad. We saw this year he got traded to the Thunder before bouncing back to the Rockets and then the Grizzlies and then inevitably getting cut. So Victor Oladipo isn't playing, whether he's on a team or not, in the NBA anymore, and that's most likely going to be the case for the rest of his career. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple seasons we see that he retires, just that the toll on his body is taking too much toll on his mind and he needs to step away from the game. But that breaks my heart. Like, I loved the guy growing up and I still love him now, and it's sad to think that injuries really ruined his career. Now, I'm not trying to bum you out with this video, but this is just a harsh reality for a lot of NBA players, especially guys like him, who a lot of their game is based off of your athleticism and your explosiveness, and it's just hard to keep a healthy body when you're in such a demanding role physically. Now, I don't really think that Victor Oladipo is going to be extremely remembered as an NBA great, and obviously, like, he wasn't in the grand scheme of things, but he was a really solid player in those years when he was an all-star, and longevity or not, he was entertainment. Like, he participated in the All-Star weekend a lot. He was in the dunk contest a couple times, and he was just really creative with the Black Panther dunk, and when he sang New York, New York coming out of the tunnel before a dunk. He's a fun guy. I'm a fun guy. And has a career where if you look back at a couple seasons and watch some highlights, it's just fun. It's entertaining. So while I won't get mad if, like, people aren't talking about him like he's an all-time great, it's just enjoyable to remember his career. His jersey was one of the first jerseys that I ever got, like, that I asked for. I got a lot of hand-me-down jerseys growing up, but I remember asking for his for my birthday, and I got a Victor Oladipo Orlando Magic jersey, and I was like over the moon. I remember I wore it to school one day, and some kid thought it was a Mo Bamba jersey, because at that point Mo Bamba was number 5 for the Magic, and that was silly, but real ones know that's Vic. I just wanted to show some love to my guy, so I appreciate you sitting and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a little bit of fun, and I will see you all later. Deuces.